So if the mind is this murky, dark place, the iceberg metaphor, all that stuff, blah, 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 if it's really like that, and you don't just simply look and introspect and find all the stuff clear, there's some puzzling things in there, which is essentially the same way of saying the exact same thing. What's going on in there? What exactly is a belief, right? Now, before you really answer that question, because I know there's a sort of a typical response that people have if I ask what a belief is. But let me ask you this. Do you know what you believe? Right? Don't we sometimes say to people, you don't know what you want? Or believe what you want to believe. So you can maybe not know really what you want. Is that some people say, yes, I know what I want, but people don't say, well, that's a nonsense statement, or that's, like, what do you mean I don't know what I want? That's impossible to not know. Is it impossible to not know what you believe? I might be wrong if I say to you, you don't know what you believe, but is that a nonsensical thing to say of you? It doesn't seem to be. Also, now we have another thorny question. What do you mean by the word know? Like to knowledge? That's a thorny one. We'll get back to that in a second. But most of us would say, okay, if I really think about beliefs, we tend to, not always, but we tend to, and certainly the history of philosophy and the history of psychology has looked at beliefs as kinds of mental states, a certain kind of mental state, because there's lots of mental states, right? There's all kinds of them. But this would be loosely the mental state theory of belief. So beliefs are things in the head. And they're not just any old thing. They're a certain kind of mental state. So, what's in the head? Pain, right? Pain's not actually in your hand. Bertrand Russell tells the story of going to the dentist, and the dentist says, oh, where does it hurt? And Russell says, in my brain. Well, you have a map in your brain of your body. But anyways, the pain actually is in your brain. So that's one kind of mental state, but that's not a belief. I may believe I'm in pain, but the pain I wouldn't say is a belief. But then again, you could even be wrong about being in pain. That raises all kinds of tricky questions. But for now, we would say it's a kind of mental state. It's not anger, pain, fear, or confusion. It doesn't seem to be knowledge, because I could believe something like I believe the train will arrive in 5 minutes, or I'll get on the airplane, or something. And if someone says, do you really know that? And I'd say, no. So there's like a sense of belief is bigger than knowledge. I'd say, well, I need more information before I'd say I moved from a belief that the plane will arrive on time to knowing that it will, or having real confidence. So there's lots of different kinds of mental states in the mind. Belief is one of them. But as I said, it seems to be that beliefs are somehow connected with knowledge, right? That well, do you know? No, if I had some more information, then my belief would somehow change into knowledge. But do you, like, if you say, yeah, I know the earth is round, do you believe it? Yeah. It'd be odd to say that, it doesn't seem odd to say that you believe something without knowing it, but it seems odd to say something like, yeah, I know 2 + 2 = 4, but I don't believe it. So historically, philosophers have thought that these concepts were tied. That is belief and knowledge. How? Well, that you can believe things that you don't know, but you don't know things you don't believe. So in other words, belief is bigger than knowledge. So belief is a more fundamental mental state than knowledge is in some ways, because we eventually arrive at knowledge like, hey, I believe it might be something, let's go test it and find out, right? We looked at that with induction. So traditionally, and if you're interested, by the way, in a great discussion in antiquity, by Plato, of course, it's called the Theaetetus, and it's all about the question, what is knowledge? We're not going to look at that dialogue, but it's a fascinating dialogue. Check it out. So Plato looks at a variety of definitions of knowledge, but a classic definition of knowledge is, or traditionally speaking, knowledge is equal to justified, that's the J, true belief. So K is equal to JTB. So there seems to be a link between knowledge and belief. So belief is a kind of a bigger thing, as I said, than knowledge. But let's dig a little bit more. So belief is a kind of mental state. It seems to be connected to knowledge. Knowledge seems to be like the earth goes around the sun kind of thing. So it's a proposition of some kind. So beliefs seem to be connected with propositions in a way, like 2 + 2 is 4. Joe is 6 feet tall or whatever, or Sally is sitting over there or something like that. These kinds of statements that belief seems to be connected to. So let's check into this a little more detail.